Today on the Big 3 in 30, High Point pulls off the upset against Wisconsin.
That doesn't make it okay to lose for the second time in 3 years to a 12 seed.
VCU knocks out North Carolina in the first round.
North Carolina has lost in the first round now in back-to-back years.
And Gonzaga escapes an upset try from Kennesaw State.
It was one of the ugliest games Gonzaga has played this season, and that is saying a lot.
This is the Big 3 in 30 College, the three biggest stories on campus from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The Big 3 in 30 College starts now. Thank you for making the Big 3 in 30 your first listen of the day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. The Wisconsin Badgers fell victim to the 5-12 upset on the first day of the NCAA Tournament, with High Point getting the win in the final seconds to end the season in Madison. After the loss, Ryan Herrings has the recap on Locked On Badgers.
I want to start with the guard discussion because that has been the single most thing that has been sent to me. People have asked me, where are you at on Greg Gard? Has he hit his ceiling? Do you want to move on? Do you not want to move on? Good season, bad season, blah, 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 blah. Let me tell you why. I want to be clear. When we do the post-game shows, like we go live right after a game, and I'm a fan. And y'all know this if you listen to this show. Like, I'm a fan. I live and believe it. I live and die this stuff. I bleed Badgers. I care about this program. So after a tough loss, like, I'm processing that with you live. And it's not the easiest thing to do in the world. I'm going to be honest, to have your thoughts collected and really understand what you want to say and then go live in front of a bunch of people. Sometimes it's nice for me to take a couple hours. I've done the live show. Now I can actually talk about it maybe a little bit more with a little more intentionality behind it. Maybe also a little more alcohol behind it, but that's fine. That'll help calm me down or fire me up. I don't know. Let's talk about Greg Gard. So I've said it before. I'll say it again. I'm not in the camp of people who think you need to move on from Greg Gard. I'm very clear on that. I've been clear on that for a while. And there's reasons for it. That being said, I want to be really clear on this. That doesn't make it okay to lose for the second time in 3 years to a 12 seed. Because I'm good with Greg Gard, and I feel like he's a good coach. I do. I think Greg Gard's a good coach. I don't think the Badgers should move on. I don't even think they should entertain it. But that does not mean what happened today is okay. It doesn't mean that you can't stop improving. There's things Greg Gard has to get better at. There's things this staff has to get better at. If you have a really good employee, but he misses a really big deadline, it doesn't mean you necessarily fire the employee, but you got to figure out how to fix that deadline issue, right? You got to get better in this spot. But here's why, having thought about it a little bit, why I'm not moving on from Greg Gard. The first is you get a tipped ball a different direction. If High Point doesn't make that banked three, if Nick Boyd just finishes that last shot, Wisconsin probably wins this game. And the discussion after the game is not the greatest effort by the Badgers, but you win in advance in March. Move on. Let's go. Round of 32. And then if you go to the next round and you lose to Arkansas, nobody's talking about firing Greg Gard. My point is this is a game that easily could have gone a different direction. It didn't. I'm not trying to make excuses, but if it went a very slight different direction, we're not really talking about this. And I think that's important. I don't want to overreact maybe to a couple bad plays. The other one is you got to understand Greg Gard hasn't played with the full war chest. The NIL support and the NIL money hasn't been there to the level of other teams he's competing against in the Big Ten. I believe that. I hope it gets better. But we made this same discussion about Luke Fickell and the football side. And it's hard to compete if you're not given the resources to compete. I think that's a fair point to bring up. I think that's fair. And then I think sample size matters. The sample size of a regular season is so much bigger. And it doesn't mean more than March because March is what matters to most people. Like March is the spotlight. I'm not saying March doesn't matter. Sean Campbell says, damn you, Ryan. I was about to go to bed. Stay up with me, Sean. Stay up with me. Stay up with me. Let's do it. You and me. Like Legos. Let's stick together. Yeah, sample size matters. Over the course of an entire season, it's hard to argue Greg Gard didn't have a good year. Dude, it sucks though. And like I said, there's things he has to get better at. And a couple of things I think he has to get better at. So Yeah, I'm firmly in. You keep Greg Gard because he's been successful. You 2 of the last 3 years, you've been a 5 seed. The other you're a 3 seed. I do think there is an element of being a stonecutter here. And the stonecutter, you just keep striking the rock. And if you keep striking the rock, eventually it's going to split. Eventually it's going to crack, right? It's same with splitting a giant piece of oak. You just keep hitting it with the maul. And Greg Gard has been hitting March with pretty good seeds. Eventually, you would think statistically you would pounce through. But here are the things that you got to get better at. And let me know in the chat if I'm making too many excuses. If you don't think I'm hard enough on Greg Gard, that's totally fair. This channel is literally built on the idea that all these opinions are fair. I'm never going to tell you your opinion matters less than mine, or you're wrong, or I'm right. As long as we're respectful, this is a spot for every single opinion. It's always going to be that on Locked On Badgers. But he's got to get better at these situational spots of basketball. That's where Greg Gard, to me, has to improve. End of game situations, matchups, adjustments, these little idiosyncrasies within the game. I think on the whiteboard, I think he's really good. He draws up really good stuff when he has time. I think in the moments, I don't want to say he's folded a little bit, but it feels like he defers to the players maybe too much. And a point I made, I was talking to either Coach or Rajiv today after the show we did. Bo Ryan was a control freak. Bo Ryan was an absolute control freak. And it worked, obviously. Greg Gard has really let go of some of those reins. He's become a coach that has empowered his players. You have to do that if you're going to play this style of offense. I think it's maybe gone a little too far. And not in the way of the players aren't. I just think you might, in certain situations, need to call timeout and draw something up. Because we've seen too many situations this year where I think the players have been given the freedom to go make a play. You're a fifth-year point guard, Nick Boyd. Go make a play. We're going to trust you to put you in the spot to do that. Same with John Blackwell. Go make a play. I don't think it's worked well enough. I think you have to have a little more control in those tight situations, draw something up, and get your guys a more manufactured look. I think he's got to be better in those situations. I think he's got to expand a little bit what he's looking for in the roster. I think you need another athlete. This is something Ken, who's been on the show, has talked about. I think you need to go and get some type of wing athlete, somebody who can match up a little bit more with these longer athletic wings, or a quicker guard who can match up with a guy like Martin today. I think you have to upgrade the athleticism on this roster. Again, I get it. If you're not working with the biggest NIL budget, you have to sacrifice somewhere. So maybe you sacrifice some skill. I think you need one more athlete somewhere. And I think maybe he's been a little too fine-tuned in defining guys that fit with skill and shooting. You need an athlete. I think 2 of the last 3 years, really all 3 of the last 3 years, and you come to March, and I think you've been at an athletic deficit. JMU absolutely was more athletic than Wisconsin was. BYU, skilled and also more athletic, I think, than Wisconsin was. And you look at this matchup today, who was the more athletic team today? Was it High Point or Wisconsin? I think Boyd, Winter are really good athletes. Winter was hobbled. I think High Point was at least athletically an equal. Wouldn't you say that? Athletically an equal. And you shouldn't be an athletic equal to High Point. So I think you got to go get an athlete. Cowboy says, need to find some athletes in the front court. Our bigs are pathetic in the paint. They're just stretch bigs, and maybe Garlock changes that next year. I think Rap's actually going to be really good for us. And I think here's the other one. Here's the other big one for me. And I think Gard does a pretty good job of this, actually. But you have to set a certain culture where you have killers. And some of that is the players coming in. I think Nick Boyd's a killer, straight up. I think Nick Boyd's a killer. But this team this year played down to opponents. And you got to fix that. This game today, there were 3 or 4 moments where Wisconsin had High Point on the ropes. Up 8, up 10. They were up 15-5 to start the game. They were up 8 several other times. And then you let them back in every single time. And I think it's because when Wisconsin had High Point down by 8, by 7, by 6, by 10, I think Wisconsin let off the gas a little bit. I think they said, okay, High Point's going to go away. You got to build a culture from the start. The team has to stop playing down to the level of their opponents. I think they've done it for a couple of years now. You got to be consistent. I think that culture starts with Greg Gard. It starts with the roster. So again, I think Greg Gard's a good coach. I don't think you go 14-6 in the Big Ten without being a good coach. I don't think you have 3 straight years where you find a Storr, a Tanjay, and a Nick Boyd, and you meld them into a system that's changed dramatically over the last 3 years and have success if you're not a good coach. The people saying he's not a good coach, I think, are crazy. Greg Gard's a very good coach, but that doesn't mean he's perfect. And there are things he has to get better at, because you can't lose in the first round as a 5 seed twice in 3 years. Not at Wisconsin.
College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. From early tip-offs to late-night shootouts, there's always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want. You want to build an underdog parlay? You want to pick a bunch of favorites, put them together, spreads, totals, player props to match how you see the slate playing out. Then you can apply that profit boost and instantly bump up the potential payout. Go safe, go bold, ride with the team you've been following all season. It's your parlay, your style, now with more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game.
Welcome back to the Big 3 and 30 College. North Carolina has now been knocked out of the NCAA Tournament in the first round for the second straight season, this time losing to 11 seed VCU. Isaac Shade takes a look at the state of the program on Locked On Tar Heels.
North Carolina has lost in the first round now in back-to-back years. And then I was like, well, wait a second. If you zoom out, they've lost, either missed the tournament or lost in the first round of 3 of the last 4 years, because lost in the first round this year, won in the play-in game, but then lost in the first round last year. They were 1 seed, 3 tournaments ago, made it to the second weekend. But the year before that, they missed the tournament. The year before that was Coach Davis's first year when they made it to the national championship. But the year before that, Coach Williams last year, they lost in the first round. And in 2020, there was no tournament, but Carolina was absolutely missing that one. So unofficially, Carolina has either missed the tournament or lost in the first round in 5 of the last 7 seasons. Wrap your brain around that. Like, are you hearing what I'm saying right now? 5 of the last 7 seasons, and yes, I'm including 2020 because Carolina would have missed the tournament. North Carolina has either missed the tournament or lost in the first round. That is pure and simple unacceptable. And look, that's not fully and wholly Hubert Davis's issue. That includes the last 2 years of the Roy Williams era. Y'all. So here we go. Let's get into this thing. Let's break it down. Big picture, nitty gritty, all of that, from Carolina's 19-point lead and dominating this game all the way to, quite frankly, the expected collapse that happened. We'll take your season-ending comments and questions. Obviously, this is not our only shot at this. We're going to have a lot of time to unpack this frustration and disappointment and what the heck of all of this later on. And what a missed opportunity it was when Duke struggled like the Dickens earlier on Thursday, and Carolina raced out to a 19-point lead early in the second half, only to fritter it away. So here we go. I said it in the cold open. The sad thing about what just happened is this. It's not surprising. We have seen over and over again this season and last season, Carolina either get in a big hole, fight like the Dickens to get their way back in, only to come up just short, or maybe every now and again get the win, something like that. Or we've seen it a lot this year where Carolina builds a massive lead and lets the opponent come all the way back. Thankfully, most of these games, like what was the one early in the season? Was it Navy, where Carolina had a massive lead and let Navy come back like just in the final couple minutes? Right? We've seen it over and over and over again. My word, it's absurd. But the problem is, I'm not shocked by it. In fact, Carolina gets up 19, and literally, like, basically what I do as I'm watching the game is I just have a whole bunch of notes I'm taking. And so one of the things I like to do is track trends and how things are going. So Carolina gets up 19, and I wrote under it a note. Like, how close can VCU get down the stretch here? And so Carolina let them push it back to like 13, 14. I was like, okay, that's comfortable. Just keep it there. But then VCU just cuts into it and cuts into it and cuts into it. So the fact that I was even like, hey, let's watch this because VCU is probably going to make a run here. And sure, some of that is VCU and you give them credit, but a lot of it is Carolina and what they've done all season. I hate that I expected it, but that's the reality. Here's the other reality that we've come to grips with is that North Carolina sucked as a free throw shooting team this season. You all heard me say it again and again and again and again that it was going to cost North Carolina basketball games. And here we are again. It cost them at Stanford. It cost them at Cal. It cost them against Clemson in the ACC quarterfinal, and it cost them here again today. Carolina finishes the season, at least as things are right now, Ken Pom has already updated, shooting 68.2% as a team. That's 321st in the nation. That's how awful the Tar Heels were from beyond the arc. And when you look at the numbers in this game, in the first half, Carolina was great. They were 4 of 5. In fact, they got up to where they were 8 of 10 at one point. But they finished this game 12 of 20, meaning that they were 4 for their final 10 in this game down the stretch. And that includes missing the front end of a bunch of free throws. When you had, there was a period, what would have been toward the end of regulation. Let me see if I can find where it was, where Seth Trimble had a chance to give Carolina a double, a 2-possession lead. Am I thinking correctly here? Yeah. It's with 29 seconds to go. Carolina's up 2. Seth is fouled. He gets a 1-on-1 and just misses the front end. And then Carolina gets the offensive rebound off of VCU. And what happens? They miss. Right? And there was the turnover with 3 seconds. I know we're talking free throws, so I'll stick to free throws. But my goodness, Carolina haunted by those free throws. And was it going to cost them? It absolutely was, and it absolutely did. I can't. Big picture, a couple things here. The Tar Heels, before the Hubert Davis era, let me say it this way. Before the Hubert Davis era, were 40. I don't know, because they might have had some in this, but I'll say it this way. They had never lost in the NCAA tournament when leading by double digits at the half. They now, following this game, are 48-2 when leading by double digits at the half. The reason I didn't want to say 48-0 is because they might have a couple wins in the Hubert Davis era in the NCAA tournament leading by double digits at half. But you get my point. Both losses the Tar Heels have ever had in the NCAA tournament when leading by double digits at halftime are in the Hubert Davis era. It was tonight. Carolina led by 11 at the half, and again by 19 early in the second half. And frustratingly, the 2022 national championship game when they led Kansas by 15 at the break. Lost that one as well. It's not a good look for Coach Davis. And you all know, for those of you that are with me all the time, I am, whether it's Coach Davis or anybody, I'm going to be a supporter. Like I'm not somebody who is quick to say, I got to get rid of him, or that person's no good, or that player, whatever. But we're getting to a point now where it's going to be very tough to defend Hubert Davis. It's going to be very tough for the athletic department to decide that they want to retain him. When you end the season on a moment like this, your hands are tied in some ways. Now, again, hear me say this. I've also been saying this all along. If Carolina wasn't going to move on from Hubert Davis before the Caleb Wilson injury, they shouldn't move on from Hubert Davis because of what happened after it. However, that's life sometimes. And so it's the kind of thing where I still don't think I would do it, and I don't think they will. But I will also say it wouldn't surprise me if that ends up happening. At the beginning of the year, Hubert Davis was on a lot of people's hot seats. Since then, he had done a lot to squelch those conversations by beating the likes of Kansas and Kentucky and Duke and Louisville and at Virginia, etc. But man, with some of the themes that are coming up, I mean, it's a hard pill to swallow. Let me give you one other stat, and then we'll move on and take a break. From CBS Sports' Matt Norlander, VCU comes back from 19 points down to beat North Carolina 82-78. You ready for this? It's the largest blown lead / comeback in the first round of the NCAA tournament in history. One more time, without explanation. VCU comes back from 19 points down to beat UNC 82-78. It's the largest blown lead comeback in the first round in men's NCAA tournament history. And that's what the Tar Heels now have attached to their program. An epic collapse, an absolute meltdown, an embarrassment of epic proportions. And it's one that just so happens to come in Seth Trimble's last game as a Tar Heel. That hurts. And this is something that you will not shake in the same way that you won't shake being the first team ever to start the season ranked preseason number 1 and not make the tournament, to being, do I remember correctly? It's the biggest blown halftime lead in NCAA national championship history, the Kansas game. And now this, like, these type of things keep piling up, and you're not able to divorce yourself from those. That's tough for this program, man. And it is not becoming, it is not befitting of what North Carolina basketball is. Things have to be better.
College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. From early tip-offs to late night shootouts, there's always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want. You want to build an underdog parlay? You want to pick a bunch of favorites, put them together, spreads, totals, player props to match how you see the slate playing out. Then you can apply that profit boost and instantly bump up the potential payout. Go safe, go bold, ride with the team you've been following all season. It's your parlay, your style, now with more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game.
Welcome back to the Big 3 in 30 College. Gonzaga has had an up-and-down season, and the Zags almost saw it come to an end in an upset to 14-seed Kennesaw State Thursday. They could not pull off that upset, though, and Andy Patton goes over the details of a close win on Locked On Zags.
It was not pretty. In fact, it was one of the ugliest games Gonzaga has played this season, and that is saying a lot because Gonzaga has played some sloppy, ugly games, particularly in the last stretch of the season without star forward Braden Huff. And so many of the challenges we have seen from this Gonzaga team reared their ugly head on Thursday night at the Moda Center in Portland, Oregon. It was an epic day of basketball in Portland. You got High Point upsetting Wisconsin. You got this epic Texas BYU game that we'll get to later. Big wins for Arkansas as well. Lots of fun stuff. But man, the nightcap was not for people who tuned into this game, who are used to watching the 2019 Gonzaga team and the 2022 Gonzaga team and the national this is one that didn't look like that team. Gonzaga ends up getting the win here. 73-64 is the final score, but it was an absolute slog of a basketball game. Gonzaga scores just 33 points in the first half, and they were down like 14 of the 20 first half minutes in this game, and they went on a 10-0 run in the final, I think, 90 seconds or so of the first half to take a 4-point deficit into a 6-point halftime lead. It was punctuated by a made three from Davis Vogel, which was Gonzaga's first made three of the game. They went 1 of 9 in the first half and pretty much not any better in the second half. Finished this game 3 of 18 from beyond the arc. We're going to take a look at the good and the bad things in this game. The good thing, got to give a shout out to Jalen Worley. Jalen Worley has 2 double-doubles this season. His first came in that road game against San Diego back in late December. His best game of the season, he had 22 points, 14 rebounds, and was the reason that Gonzaga won that game. His second double-double came tonight against this Kennesaw State team. And again, for Worley, he's been out since early, not out. He's been not at full strength since early February in that game against the Portland Pilots, which Gonzaga lost. He suffered a quad contusion and was not practicing very much for this team and has been, in it, his playing time plummeted. He was playing like 32 minutes a game since Braden Huff had been hurt. And that dropped to about 15 minutes per game for the last 5 or 6 weeks. He missed 2 regular season games. He played 39 combined minutes for Gonzaga in the WCC tournament. And then, as Mark Few says before this game, he's about 90%. And he looked great. 12 points for him, 12 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 turnover, played 29 minutes for him, which is the most he's played in a very long time. 5 of 9 shooting, made both of his free throws in this game. Just a really excellent performance from him. Also want to shout out Davis Vogel. I mean, for a true freshman to come into his first NCAA tournament game, a player who, again, was not in the rotation, not just at the beginning of the year, like most of the season, he was playing. It's not that he was like, he didn't pick up DNPs for the first month or two of the year. He played in Gonzaga's first game. He played early minutes. It was just in garbage time against bad teams, to then now step into a crucial role for Gonzaga where he's not only in the rotation, he is a critical part of what Gonzaga does on a day-by-day basis. He is counted on significantly. And while Graham Ike was Gonzaga's leading scorer in this game, it was not by much. Graham had 19 points. Fogel had 17. He was 6 of 13 from the field. He was 1 of 4 from 3, 4 of 5 from the line, had 5 rebounds, just 1 turnover for Davis in 25 minutes. He had a stretch in the second half where he had 2 alley-oops and a really tough finish in the lane to score 6 points in like a 3-minute stretch. He scored very late in this game as well. He was trusted with the basketball in his hands. Just, again, hard to understate how important Davis has been to this team this season. Other good stuff that happened in this game, Gonzaga was great at the free throw line. You win a game by 9 points. You get into the NCAA tournament, and so much of the story for Gonzaga this year has been the free throw shooting is going to hurt them in the big dance. And a lot of things that have been problems for Gonzaga this year hurt them now that they're in the big dance. But guess what? Free throw shooting wasn't one of them. 20 of 23. 20 of 23. That is 87% from the line. If Gonzaga shot the way that they have shot this year at times, 11 of 23 would be on the far end of like, wow, that's a really bad performance. That'd be a tie game. We might still be at the Moda Center right now had they shot 11 of 23 from the line, but they shot 20 of 23. That included Graham Ike going 7 of 8. That included Davis Fogel going 4 of 5. Tyan Grant Foster went 3 of 4. Mario Worley and Innocente all went 2 of 2. That is how you get to your phenomenal 20 of 23 shooting from the stripe, which they needed desperately in this game. Gonzaga also had a big rebounding advantage, 45-34, out-rebounded KSU by 11. That wasn't the case early in this game. In fact, I noted this while watching the game. There was at one point in the first half, at about the 7-minute, 17-second mark remaining in the half. At that time, Kennesaw State was out-rebounding Gonzaga 19-13, I believe it was. And then at halftime, I noted Kennesaw State still has 19 rebounds. So they didn't get a rebound in the final 7.5 minutes of the first half. That was when Gonzaga shut the door. That was when Gonzaga turned a 4-point deficit into a 10-point lead. It's because every shot that went up, Gonzaga gobbled it up. Graham had a great game on the glass. Worley, again, had a great game on the glass. Fogel had 5. Tyon had 5. Innocente had 4. They desperately, and again, Kennesaw State not only went the last 7 minutes of the first half without getting a rebound, it was about the 14.5-minute mark, the 16.5-minute mark in the second half before they got their first rebound. It was 11 minutes and 35 seconds of game time between rebounds for Kennesaw State. That is crucial for Gonzaga to do this against a team, again, that we talked about coming into this game as one of the best offensive rebounding teams in all of college basketball. And for a kind of a plucky mid-major team, they are big and physical and push people around, and they don't get bodied on the glass very often. And one of the key reasons, if not the key reason, that Gonzaga won this game was that they dominated on the boards. Some not so good stuff. Gonzaga's three-point shooting was horrendous. 3 of 18. I thought their shot selection was bad. They settled for way too many threes. There was possessions at one point in this game where Gonzaga did something that we talked about, and we'll talk about more in segment 2, that we really wanted to see Gonzaga do, which is grab defensive rebounds and push in tempo, get out, run, try to outrun this team that likes to run, gas them, get them tired. And Gonzaga did this so effectively. There's back-to-back possessions, or like 2 possessions in quick succession in the first half where it was either Tyon or Worley. Somebody got a rebound, immediately push, starts dribbling, gets up the floor. That's what you want. Your guards who can handle the ball, who are also great rebounders, pushing in tempo and getting you good looks. And then both times they made one pass, and whoever caught it, I think it was Mario one time and either Miller or Mario the other time, immediately jacked up a 3. It's like you're still in transition. The defense is not set. There's 27 seconds on the shot clock, and you're throwing up a 3. I don't understand it. I do not get why this team settles for too many outside looks. There were times in this game where the shot selection, the 3-shot selection wasn't bad, where it made sense to shoot the 3, and they just didn't make it. Fine. That will happen every single game. No team shoots 100% from 3. No team really has a game where every single decision they make shooting the basketball is good. But Gonzaga has not been a good 3-point shooting team this entire season. and their like stubbornness with being so consistent about shooting the three despite not being a good team. And like Mario's typically better. And that kind of moves to the next topic. Like this was a rough game for Mario Saint-Superi. I mean, he's played 36 minutes because Braden Smith only played a few minutes. I don't know if there was an injury there. I haven't heard. But for Mario, he played 7 minutes, but he's 2 of 11 from the field. He fouled out. We'll get to that in a second. But 1 of 7 from 3. Just a rough game for Mario. Let's talk about what I said we're going to get to in a second. The end of this game was one of the most mystifying, confusing, frustrating situations of the ref show that I've ever seen in my life. Those of you who are regular listeners to the show know that I very rarely complain about officiating. I rarely talk about officiating other than from the perspective of like, oh, they called a tight game, or, oh, they let them play, but rarely complaining or, implying bias or anything like that. But I don't know what the hell that was in the final 3 minutes of this basketball game. For those who missed it, I will give a very quick recap. There was a possession where Graham Ike had the ball on the block. He turned within his cylinder like you're allowed to do with the basketball. And truly, this is going to sound exaggerated, but it is not. The Kennesaw State player ran full speed directly into Graham Ike's elbow. Like the contact was not initiated by Graham. It was initiated by this player's forehead right into Graham. And he buckled hard because it hurt. Like he was not faking it. He got drilled very hard by Graham's elbow, but it was him initiating it. They blew the whistle. They called a foul on Graham. That is bad. It was the wrong call. But I get that. A foul being called on Graham right there, while it is the wrong call, is something that happens. They miss calls like that, whether it's a block charge that just goes the wrong way or whatever. But then they went to the monitor to look at it. And I assumed that they were going to look at this, realize in the moment, oh, we screwed up. This shouldn't have even been called a foul on Graham. They can't pull that back, but they would have said, okay, it's no flagrant. We're going to move on. But instead, they assessed a flagrant on Graham Ike, which was baffling. Truly, I mean, everybody in the stadium saw the replay. We saw the same thing that they were looking at. I don't know what the broadcast was saying, but I could not believe that they called a flagrant foul on Graham Ike in that situation. It was truly astonishing.
That's all for today's Big 3 and 30 College. If you follow pro basketball or football, the Big 3 and 30 has shows for the biggest news in the NBA and NFL going up every weekday just like this one. Just search the Big 3 and 30 NBA or the Big 3 and 30 NFL wherever you're listening or watching now. Thanks again for tuning in to the Big 3 and 30 College.